Hello and welcome. It's a dark, stormy night. It's a full moon out. The perfect night to release some buggy software. I'm announcing a beta test of a new tool, and not just any tool, but it's my own add-on. One of the first that I've fully created and put out into the world. And you can get access to it today. It's in beta, but you can get it through my Patreon. Before you commit to any of that, though, let me just talk about what this add-on is and who might be interested. So, this was kind of born out of necessity. I created, as many of you know, this episode in a series I'm calling Night Shift Archive. And in that, I do a lot of first-person camera work. Let me just get a little scene set up here. Oops. So traditionally, I was using Blender's first-person functionality, which you could just go into your camera view. If you hit Shift tilde, then you enter fly mode, and then you can press tab, and Blender automatically has this great functionality where you can walk around with your WASD keys. You can even press V and jump, and it kind of puts you at average human eye level. And this is great. You can come down here and click record, and then you can press play and kind of control your camera here, look around. And when we play that back, as you can see, you can record first-person camera movement in Blender. So this is what I used for the first episode. However, I came across some ideas, things that I wanted to improve on that would be really nice to have in a first-person controller. I've rambled on. Let me show you the actual add-on. So it's a mouthful right now. I might call it something else. It's called Better First-Person Controller with Object Interaction. That should give you an idea for what it is. You install it like any other add-on. Now that we have it enabled, let me show you where you can find it. So you go to your end panel, and it is this new tab down here. Once we have this, we have just some functionality. I'll just go through everything very quickly. So enter first-person controller. This will jump into your camera, and you can start walking around. You could add that to your quick favorites if you want, but we're just going to use it over here. Then I have some gravity presets. I thought this would be fun. We start with Earth. We also have zero gravity, moon gravity, Mars, Jupiter, and the sun. And these are all scientific. They're all accurate to what these actual gravity environments would be. So we'll explore that a little bit in a minute. Then we have our jump power. That's just the strength at which we jump. It's not necessarily the height, because depending on your gravity, I mean, if you're in zero gravity, no matter what you jump, you'll just go on forever. So it's jump power, not height. And then we have walk speed. By the way, all of these defaults are average human performance. So this is like the average human walking speed, average human jump height for an Earth gravity environment. Of course, when we say average human, there's a wide range of what humans can do, but this is kind of as good a baseline as I could find. So we have our walking speed. And then we have our sprint multiplier. So remember how in Blender you could hit shift and you would start sprinting? The problem was you would just suddenly go way fast. You can change your sprint multiplier. So right now it's set to a factor of 2, which will be twice as fast as your walking. But here's the really cool one. This is your sprint ramp time, and this is in seconds. So right now it's set to 0.5. So you'll go from walking to running in 0.5 seconds. You can increase the ramp time as high as you want. So you could take 30 seconds to speed up your sprint if you want. I don't know why you would do that, but you could totally do that. And then here's another cool one. This is look smoothness. This acts similar to like a smooth brush in texture painting, where there's a little bit of a delay and smoothing function. And I'll showcase what this does in a second. I'm just getting through all the features. Here's just your camera. So you use this eyedropper to select which camera is your first person camera, really simple. This is your eye height. And again, this is kind of set at a default of average human. So this is the average human eye height. If your person's taller, if you want to have a lower point of view, you can adjust this number. And now we have record movement. So instead of coming down here and manually turning on the record keyframes, you could just turn on record movement. And not only will that record your camera walking around, but it will also record the objects you interact with, which I haven't even gotten into yet, which is kind of what's up next. So the next one is object rotation speed, When you pick up an object, you can rotate it and look around at it. That's our rotation speed. And then the throw strength, full disclosure, I haven't got this one working yet. I should probably take that off. But eventually I'll show you there will be a button you can press to throw objects. I haven't been able to figure out initial velocity in Python yet, but that's something that I just wanted to show you because it's something I plan on adding. So let's get to the actual add-on. I'm gonna grow this floor plane just so it's nice and big. And let's just enter the first person controller with nothing really changed. So by default, we're walking around. I'm gonna add a texture to the floor just so you could see how fast we're walking. It's a little bit easier. All right, there we go. Nothing crazy. It's just a UV color grid, but I want you to see where we're walking. So we're in material preview mode. So let's enter first person controller. And as you can see, we can walk around. We have our walk speed. Let's change that to something like 5, so we're a little faster. You can see we're moving faster now. You can also jump. Jump is just the space bar, so it's a little bit more of a common keystroke than V, what it is in Blender. Now let's play around with sprinting. So right now we're walking and we have a sprint factor of 2. So ready, walking and sprint. And you can see there's a little bit of a ramp up and a ramp down time, which is really nice. Let's make the sprint multiplier 5, so we really speed up. And now let's do that again. Walking and sprinting, walking, sprinting. That may be a bit abrupt, so let's change the sprint ramp time to something like 2. Then we can go walking and sprinting, back to walking and sprinting. So as you can see, that ramp time really helps us as we try to smooth things out, and it's all happening when we control it. We don't have to go in after the fact, mess with keyframes, any of that. So yeah, that is, pretty cool. It's within our Earth gravity preset. Let's see what the jumping's like in that. Jump power is maybe a little high, but let's go to something like the moon where we're gonna jump way higher. And as you can see, that's pretty cool. It feels like you're in a lower gravity environment. If we did something like Jupiter, that's going to be way harder to jump, so let's go ahead and test that out. You can see we barely leave the ground, and if you want to be really ridiculous, I don't even think we'll be able to see it. Yeah, so the sun, you can't even see it jumping. The gravity's too strong. But yeah, we could do the Mars environment, which is not as low gravity as the moon. It's kind of in between Earth and the moon. So anyway, that was just a fun thing. I wanted to give some gravity presets in there for you. But let's talk about some further functionality. So we've covered all of these. Let's cover the look smoothness. So right now, without any look smoothness, it's kind of one-to-one. This is something that you're going to have to play with to get a feel for, but you can kind of see what's going on. Yeah, factor of 1. I'm moving my mouse and it's just lagging behind. It's kind of eventually getting around to looking where I'm looking, but it's much easier to have a smooth animation. We could walk around while we do this, and that should help with some of the motion sickness that was coming about with that one-to-one correlation with my mouse movement. So that's look smoothness. Eye height, nothing crazy here. We could set it to 3, and once we jump in, we're just way taller. Yeah, that's just a number you can play with. I'm gonna set these back to values that are reasonable for me. And yeah, that feels pretty good. Look smoothest at like 0.3. Let's go ahead and show you something else that's really cool, which is picking up and moving around objects. So let me add Suzanne here. Let's scale her down and kind of place her. I'll apply the scale because I scaled her. And now let me show you something really cool. So by default, you can't pick up just any object. It has to be a rigid body object because it's actually going to use rigid body physics, which is all happening in real time. Come over here, turn on rigid body. This is an active object. We need a collision object. So select the floor plane, make that rigid body, and make that passive. Now what's cool about this is the camera will only pick up active rigid body objects. It won't pick up passive, so we're not going to accidentally grab the floor plane or anything. So let me just start playing around with this. I'm going to move my end frame to something really high, like 9,000, just so we don't run out of runway here. And let's enter the first person controller. Our monkey head dropped. We can go over to it, and you can press E to pick it up. I right-clicked there to exit out of that. Let's go back in. You can press E to pick it up. And there's a few things you could do with this. You could just press E again, and that'll drop it. And it takes into account whatever motion you have, so you can kind of fling it, and it'll go flying across the floor there. We can go back up to it. Something else you could do is you could use your scroll wheel to scroll in and out. So if you pick up a small object, you can kind of zoom in. And then if you hold down the middle mouse button, you can also rotate the object, which is similar functionality to a video game where you're inspecting an object, you want to get closer, maybe you turn it around to see a note that's on the back of this. This was really important for me as I create, storytelling, and maybe I'm doing a mystery environment where I'm a detective and I'm looking at objects in an environment, things like that. And then eventually, when you press F, that will be the throw strength. I don't have that quite working right now, so it just drops to the floor. But yeah, that's the functionality. And now the really cool thing, let me show you this is something we can also record, which took some doing, but I think I got it figured out. If we turn on record movement, that's all you have to do. Then once you enter the first person controller, it will record not only your character's movement, but it records whatever you're doing to these physics objects as well. So I just tossed it over there. Let's go back to frame 1 and we can watch the animation. I'm not doing anything right now. This is just playing back the animation that I had. At this point, I could take this, I could go and render it, but it's not done yet. What's cool about this is that little action that I recorded is not baked into the keyframes. I could change attributes of the actual physics simulation. For example, I could go back to frame 1 here, and let's say I want to add a cube. Let's make both of these rigid body objects, even though they weren't there when we first recorded it, because they're there now, because things aren't baked in. When we throw the monkey head, it was hard to see, but it did actually run into those. We could just go back there. You could see it kind of nudged them out of the way. Let's actually move those so they run into that a little bit more. And we could change things like the mass. So instead of 1 kilogram, these could be 0.5, which will make them easier to knock over. Now let's watch that again. Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually animating the keyframe on whether or not this monkey object is animated or passive, so you can pick it up and throw it around, and you could change all of the physics settings after the fact. So we can go in here to the passive floor object, and let's see, we can go to surface response. We can turn down friction completely, so this should have the monkey head and the boxes sliding around a little bit more. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. Let's go ahead and see what happens here. And yeah, they're sliding across the floor. So that's another really cool thing about this, is you can mess with the physics kind of after the fact. Nothing has to be finalized until you're ready to actually bake it. And you would bake this just like any other animation. All you have to do there is go to your scene properties, go to rigid body world, go to cache, and then you can bake this actual simulation, which it's almost done. 100%, there we go. And now we could actually render this. So let's pick a frame, maybe that one right there. Yeah, and that scene isn't lit yet, so let me just add some quick lights. This isn't part of the tutorial. I just did an HDRI, nothing crazy, but I just wanted to show you, yeah, this has the motion baked in. We can now do a rendering. You could see the motion blur picking up. So yeah, this is a great add-on. I hope for people that are doing first-person animation like I am, you can pick up objects, you can interact with them, you have more control over your sprint speed and your walking speed and your jump height and gravity. Oh, and also I should say, this automatically changes the gravity for your rigid body world as well. So if we go back to our scene settings here, we go to rigid body world. Where are we here? Let's go to gravity. Right now it's set to negative 9.8, which is Earth gravity. If we set this to the moon, for example, it automatically changes that to negative 1.6. Or if we set it to 0 gravity, of course, that would be set to 0. So not only does this preset affect the camera walking and jumping around in the world, but it also affects your physics objects. So when you set it to the moon gravity, everything should kind of fit together and work cohesively. So if you want to try this add-on, go over to my Patreon. You're free to use it for your own projects, but please give me feedback. This is considered in beta. I want to fine-tune and get things working even better, as well as expand on this. I want to add more controls for you and other things that you want to be able to do in your own first-person animation. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Go use my add-on and let me know what you think. If you're on my Patreon, you also get access to the private Discord server where we can talk all about the add-on and what you want to see next. Okay, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.